Hey everybody, Russ here at Shaper, and we just finished this cool little build teaching you how to cut tambour doors with Shaper Origin.
Yeah. On top of that, we're also going to teach you how to make the design in Studio, and then all the nice little tricks you need to know when you're actually cutting it.
That's right. If you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe. If you've got any questions, drop them in the comments below. And please join us live next time for Shaper Sessions, 4 p.m. every other Thursday at shapertools.com/sessions.
For now, enjoy the show. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Shaper Sessions. My name is Jake.
And I'm Russ.
And today, we're focusing on one of our favorite topics, tambour doors. Not only because it's fun to say, but because
Tambour.
they're cool.
Is this how tambourines are made?
Exactly how tambourines are made.
Tambour doors, if you didn't know, are doors made of these crazy fabric-backed rolling slats. So usually you see these in something like a roll-up desk, where they go this way. Today we're going to be installing them on a wall cabinet where they're going horizontally, like that. These are really slick. They add a touch of class to your project, a nice way to interact with your cabinet.
And tough to do if you don't have a fancy freehand CNC machine.
Like the Shaper Origin. So we're going to teach you everything that you need to know today to design and build tambour doors. Specifically, we're going to be focusing on the track because that's the hardest part.
Yeah.
We're going to route some stuff. We'll go into Shaper Studio to design a tambour track for this little cabinet that we're working on. And then we'll do the other panel.
Yeah. As always, this is a live show, so please, everyone, we encourage you to use that chat feature and
heckle us.
And heckle us. Ask us the questions. We have Ted in the chat. He's going to save all the juicy questions for the end, where we'll go over them during the Q&A section.
Yeah, that's right. We also have a giveaway that we're going to be giving away at the end of the show. To enter that, there's going to be a poll question that pops up halfway through the show. We'll have some announcements around then. We've got a really good shop tour today from Madison, Wisconsin that I'm excited to show you all. Why don't we get started?
Let's get into it. Always like to make a little sawdust right from the top, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut one half of the tracks.
Yeah, what are we looking at on Origin screen here?
So I'm set up on workstation shelf, and I'm cutting the top of our case.
Mm-hmm.
I have some of the bits already done, like the Morrises and the back panel, but I'm going to start cutting the track.
All right.
Let's do it. I'm going to do this in a couple of passes.
You guys know, if you watch the show regularly, we like to get started with some cutting, some of the exciting stuff. So Jake's going to go ahead and route out the tambour track for this panel to show you guys what we're focusing on today. And then when he's done, we will go back and do everything from scratch. So we're going to design this in Studio. We'll show you how to set all of this up from the ground up on Workstation. And in the second half of the show, we're going to route this entire panel from a blank. We're going to do the mortises, we're going to do the groove for that back panel, and we're going to do this tambour track again, walking really slowly through all the settings that we're using. But to get started, we've always got some new folks joining these shows, so to bring everybody up to speed, this is Shaper Origin, our handheld CNC router, and all Jake's doing here is following this dotted line. Origin is keeping him on track, and that's going to allow him to route this track, even if it's not a straight line, even if it's got these nice curves in the corners, with the precision of a CNC machine, even though it's packaged like a plunge router, really. Jake's driving this thing around by hand, just like you would your old Porter cable. We'll go through all of the design elements of this tambour track as we're designing it, but I want to point out that this is a really important part right here. You might wonder what this is. This is the back of the cabinet, and these are little ports that are going to allow us to install and remove the tambour door itself while the cabinet has been glued up and assembled. Really nice design detail here. If you don't do this, then you are stuck installing your tambour doors once when you glue the cabinet up and hope you get it right and hope that nothing ever breaks. But a better, more thoughtful design, designing for repairability. We love doing these little inlets and outlets at the back of the cabinet so that if you need to take your door out or replace it, put it back in, then you've got a nice built-in way to do that. This track that Jake is routing was designed to be exactly 1/4 of an inch wide. That's the width of the tongue on each of our Tambour staves. But you'll notice that he's got a minus 0.01 inch offset on this. So he's adding 1/100 of an inch, removing 1/100 of an inch additionally from each side of this Tambour track. And that's just going to make the track run a little smoother. We tested that before the show, and that was what we found for best results. Remember that negative offset always removes more material. So if you want to make your slot a little bit wider, go with the negative offset. One more time around the inside here. Just cleaning that up.
Sweet.
Yeah, pretty good. Looks clean. The question always is, does it fit?
Does it fit?
I'm going to tell you right up front, the answer is going to be no, but we're about to show you how and why.
Yeah.
This is a trick with these Tambour doors, and this is another thing that Origin's great for, but we're going to ease into it. And I want to test two things. I want to test, A, how does it fit in the straight parts of the track? That looks great. And then B, how does it go around the corners? And we're talking about two different corners here. We've got these corners on the sides, which it's definitely getting jammed in. That's because as these panels bend, they actually take up more space. They're not perfectly curving around that arc. They're in segments, so they're going to take up a little more space. So we want to go back and take a little bit more material off the inside of these curves. Now, before we go back and cut that, I also want to see if we make it around this this corner here, because the tricky thing about this is that this is the opposite direction that that panel wants to bend. So it's really tight to get it to go that way. But it looks like we made it.
Beautiful.
Pretty good?
Yeah.
Okay. Doesn't want to come out, but does go in. So it's not going to get stuck. It's not going to get hung up as you're operating the door.
Yeah, we can just soften these.
Yeah.
But
perfect.
That's great. Yeah, it does not like to bend this way so much.
Mm-hmm. Likes to bend one way. So Jake and I learned a really cool technique for cleaning up the corners of these Tambour tracks so that that door can go around them smoothly. What did we learn?
Well, we're going to take a little, you're going to use the offset feature to take a little bit more off of that corner, that inside corner specifically.
Mm-hmm.
And just like with anything, we're going to do a little bit at a time and test fit until we find just the right fit. Then we can apply it to all the corners.
Yeah, and I think a 0.05 inch negative offset is going to be a good place to start.
0.05.
It's a little more than a millimeter at a time we're going to take off. And we'll just try one corner first. We're going to go from the end, from the start to the end of the corner, just around that 90 degrees.
Just kind of eyeballing where that curve hits its apex.
All right, let's try one.
Let's do it.
This is going to be a quick one. Again, we're just starting where the curve begins to arc away from the straight. And then once it starts to go straight again, we'll just retract. And you can see both on that blue cut history and on the part itself where we've removed a little bit more material. And as we're testing, it's very important to not pick the panel up off of workstation unless you want to start over again with your grid and alignment. But we can go in and drop this one panel in just to see how it fits. All right, how are we doing on that corner?
Nailed it.
Beautiful. Feels good?
I wouldn't want to take any more off.
All right. Yeah, you do want to keep it nice and snug there still.
And then when it's time to actually finish the cabinet up, you can ease those with a chisel if you so desire.
If you want to.
Cool. I'm going to apply that to the rest of them.
All right, 4 corners total, 3 more to go. With Origin, whenever you're playing with your offsets or the width of your cut, you can see that the gray preview area is going to change and adapt to all your settings. So that gray preview area is showing here that we're going to cut a little bit more around the inside of these corners, and then that blue cut history on Origin's cut screen is going to show us the area that we've cut away. So you can see that blue cut history growing there. And yeah, I thought that was a really cool shot, Goose. We've got Goose on the switchboard here. You can kind of see what Origin is removing additionally from these corners, just that little bit of material. And it really highlights the precision here, where you can come right back to what you've already cut before and just shave another millimeter off of it.
I feel like it's been a minute since we've given the old sanding stick a call out, but tell you what.
Love the old sanding stick.
Love the old sanding stick.
I like the sanding stick because it's so easy to change the paper on it. You just give it a little rotate, and then you've got a fresh tip on the sanding stick.
Yeah, and what we're doing is just knocking the fuzz off that happens from the upcut bit by nature.
Yeah, we want to make sure this glides as smoothly as possible. Once this is finished, also, it's going to glide even more smoothly. A little wax in there will help. What do you say we run that door all the way around just to check? Oh, yeah.
Beautiful. Just lovely.
You remember that video game Snake?
How could I forget?
How could you forget? Kind of like Snake.
Many, many hours spent on that game.
Yeah. Now, I'm regretting that I didn't have time to make the pulls for this tambour door, but I'm imagining 2 little brass pulls in the middle, little tabs, where you can open that thing from the center. Yeah, just like that.
Super cool.
Very nice. All right. That's the gist of it.
Easy enough to cut.
Now we're going to go into the nitty-gritty. Yeah, so again, just glossing over the cut settings on this, we're going to come back to all this and cut this entire panel from the start, including the mortises, including the groove for the back panel. But first I want to show you this design in studio and then show you how to build it so that you can make one of these at home. So let's pop over to the computer. This is what we're looking at, tambour cabinet. I have this whole panel built out. This overall shape obviously is the size of the panel. Here we have the tambour track with the inlet and outlet here. We have a groove for a back panel, and we didn't talk about why we added this here, but I like this because it's going to allow that tambour to wrap around behind here, and you're not going to see so much of that fabric backing on the tambour. It's also going to let the tambour come out behind it to do that inlet and exit. And when the tambour is partially open, partially closed, it's going to hide the wall behind the tambour here. So I love having a back panel like this set up here. And then we've got the mortise and tenons for the side panels here. These are set back a little bit and set in a little bit from the side, just because I like the way that that looks a little bit better once it's all assembled. So, and an important thing to note here is that when we look at these tambour panels, you'll notice that the tongue is toward the back of the panel. We could actually do this on the detail camera here. The tongue is toward the back of the panel. So as we're designing this, we want to make sure that we have room outside of the track for the front face of this, which is protruding a little bit less than 1/4 inch. So if we go back to studio over here, you can see that I have 1/4 inch at least of room between this track and anything else. I've got 1/4 inch between it and the side panel, and I've got a little bit more than 1/4 inch between the track and the front.
Gives you some room to do a fun edge.
Yeah,
treatment.
A little bit of an edge treatment. So let's design it. I'm going to open a new design. And there are a few things that I want to do with this first before I get started. I want to make sure that my grid is set to a 1/4 inch. Just because of the size and shape of this cabinet, I like snapping to 1/4 inch increments for this. And then I'm going to add the origin anchor. The origin anchor is going to make sure that we stay centered on everything as we place this, even though that inlet and outlet will be protruding back beyond the back of the cabinet, because that would put things off center. So we're going to use this origin anchor to keep everything centered. The first thing that I designed when I was doing this cabinet was my tambour track, and those are rounded rectangles. I designed the tambour track first because we already had a tambour fixture, and I had a certain length of tambour that I knew that I was going to be working with, and I wanted to make the track reflect that in a way that covered the sides, covered the front, allowed everything to open up and wrap around the back in a nice way without overextending the tambour or without running out of room for it. And so what I found for this is if I set my width here to 14.5 inches, my height to 4.5 inches, and my corner radius to 1 inch. Perfect. Let's zoom out here. There we go. Recenter. This is going to be the outer dimension of my tambour track. Now, today I'm going to be using a lot of a new studio feature, duplicate in place. So duplicate, as you might remember, this is the original way to duplicate shapes. Gave it a little bit of an offset so it was easier to drag. I will delete this. What I want to do is duplicate in place, and this is going to place the exact same shape right on top of where you started. And when I duplicate in place, that's going to make it really easy for me to just change the dimensions on that and have everything stay centered. Oop, not 400, 4 inches. I want to change this corner radius to match 0.75. Here you go. Here's our track. Now, this highlights one small difference between the way that we did it and another option that you could pursue to get that nice inside corner clearance. So if we look at the design here, you'll see that I just changed this corner radius to 3/4 of an inch. But if I actually left that at 1 inch, see how it gives me that extra clearance on the inside of that corner?
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing that you could try. You might have a little trial and error with this still. But I really like using the offsets on the tool for this. So I'm going to make those radii match a single center point here and have you go back and use the offset on the corners like we did for the first panel.
Nice.
Here's our track, inside and outside. Now the next thing that I'll do is make the overall shape of the cabinet panel. For this, my dimensions ended up being 16.25 by 5.5. And I found that that was just a nice distance all around. I think it worked well. No real reason for that. There's a little bit of room here on the left and right hand sides for a panel, a little bit extra room. We're using this 1/4 inch grid spacing so I can see really easily just by looking at this that I have that 1/4 inch clearance that I need. I have room for a 1/2 inch panel, and I have a little bit of room on the side over here for a little overhang on those top and bottom panels. Now let's go ahead and add our side panels. These will be 0.5 inches wide, 5 inches long, and we can snap these to the side. I also want to make some tenons here. Those are going to be rounded rectangles. For these, again, just by eye, whatever feels good to you, I like a 0.3 inch width, fully rounded over. And I'm going to snap this right in the center of this part. I'll duplicate this, move it down. Really like this snapping. It makes placing these just so easy. And I think those are nice, evenly spaced tenons. Now the cool thing about this is I can hold Shift and click to select all of these, duplicate all of that, and move them over to the right hand side. And now we've got both sides of mortises setup here with just some guidelines for where these panels are going to go, just so you can keep track of what you're doing. Okay, what is missing from this, Jake? We need the space for the back panel, and we need the groove here. Yep, exactly. We need the lead-ins. I'll do the back panel first, just because that's another really easy rectangle. For this one, my material for that back panel is 1/4 inch thick. And let's just see what I can fit inside this track between these two sides, left and right here. So I'm going to try 13 inches. I think this is what I did. 13 inches. And we can just drop that right in there. That looks pretty good. Now, the thing that you want to be aware of with this is that you are leaving yourself a little bit of room here for that corner clearance that you're going to want to do. So remember, we're going to be taking off about 1 millimeter here, but I can see that I have at least 1/8 of an inch or 3 millimeters of room there. So we've got plenty of room. Okay, now, last but not least, we need our inlet and our outlet. These are the trickiest things to design, and this is the whole reason why we're doing this show, is to show you how to do this, I think, specifically.
It's a very cool little trick.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So let's go in here to make shape. Let's make that. It's just going to be a huge circle to give us these in and out radii. Circle. Perfect. That's going to be... I ended up with 75 inches on this after a little bit of trial and error. Ooh, look at that. So we're going to drag this so that it's close, and then we can zoom back in. Okay, we want this thing centered, and we want this one to start on the inside of the track. Now again, I'm going to duplicate this in place. I want to bring this in a 1/2 inch on the diameter, which is 1/4 inch on the radius. And now you can see we've got this track going in and out there. Okay, let's see what happens when we shapeshift this. I'm going to go ahead and select all here. We'll go into shapeshifter. Here's what I want to keep. Look at that. But there's a small problem here. We want to make sure that this extends past the edge so that we can route beyond the edge with the router without having little cusps on the corners from the round router bit. So I'm going to go ahead and pick this. I'm going to keep all of my existing shapes. I'm going to make that shape. I'm going to get rid of a bunch of extra stuff. I'm deleting these circles. I don't need these tracks anymore, the inner and outer, because I've shape-shifted that into this one solid part. But the one thing I need to do is go ahead and trim this. So to do that, I'll just make a rectangle. And for this, yeah, I think a 1/2 inch of clearance on either side is going to be fine. And let's just make this really wide, 30 inches wide. Now if I pick both of these, shape-shift again, all I want to keep is this track shape here. So make that shape. Bam. There we go.
So cool.
That's a cabinet with the Tambour track. There are still a few steps that we want to do on this. We're going to go into plan mode, make sure that everything's preset, and then we'll check it out in review. Yeah, very nice. So let's check this out over here. Plan mode. Everything by default is going to be an online or an outside cut. So we're going to go ahead and change these to the cut types that we want. This one will be inside, and we're going to cut that 1/4 of an inch deep. These mortises, doing shift to select multiple here, we're going to make these inside cuts also. And we can make these, I don't know, let's say 0.22 inches deep. The tenons on these are 3/16, so that's going to give us a little bit extra. These two side panels here, these are just guides. These are just so that we know where we are. This back panel is going to be a groove cut on the inside. This will be I think this will also be 1/4 of an inch deep. And then, just for illustration's sake, I'll leave this as an outside cut, maybe 0.5 inches deep, because that's the thickness of our panel. Let's see how I did. Review mode. Yeah, so because this is an inside cut here, it's showing that I'm not removing all the material. I think that's because I have this set to an 1/8 inch bit. Now really I'm going to be cutting this with a 1/4 inch bit. Let's give this that same negative offset that Jake is planning to use, minus 0.01. And now this looks like what we want. Almost. We're going to take these mortises and do the same thing to them. Select all of these. And we'll change that to a 1/4 inch bit. There we go. That looks right. Does that look like what you want to cut?
Looks exactly like what I want to cut.
Okay, nice. Let's name this something. Let's call this Sessions Tambour. Sessions. Sessions. There we go. We're all set. That was a brainful.
It was. But, I mean, the concept is just what I love. It's like taking a giant shape, because we just need that radius, just taking a little section of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Just like using cookie cutters.
Fair. If you want to see that again, we're going to be posting this video to replay it probably tomorrow.
Yeah.
Usually we get it up the next day. It'll be up on YouTube. You can watch this as many times as you want. Take it slow. Press pause. Follow along as we're doing this also. All right, now we're going to take a little break here because that was a lot to absorb before we cut the bottom half of this panel. And we're right on time, Jake. It's 4:30.
I love it.
Halfway through. Poll question coming up. Do you use any other digital fabrication tools in your shop? That might be a laser cutter, a water jet cutter, a vinyl cutter, like a Cricut, maybe a 3D printer. We're curious. Let us know if you use any other digital fabrication tools in your shop. And then a couple of announcements. The first one, since we're on studio here, I'm going to show you guys something cool. So let's check out the studio screen. If I go into help, which is this question mark at the bottom right-hand corner, we're going to see, shortcuts and controls. If you pull that up, it's going to show you shortcuts and controls right here. Now, check this out. We just added a whole boatload of shortcuts to Studio. Some of these already existed, undo, redo, etc. But we've got that duplicate in place here. We've got Control-Shift-D instead of just Control-D, for example. Now, here's the cool stuff. Now you can ignore snaps. You can nudge a bit or a big one or a little one. Mirror with a shortcut. Different selections with a shortcut. Different shape creations with the shortcut. Circle, ellipse, rounded rectangle, text, find art. Different zooming, all this stuff is just going to save you a ton of time and make it way faster to use. So I didn't use any of these because it's really hard. Like, there's no way to show you that I'm pressing the letter C on the keyboard to create a circle here. I'd rather press the buttons and show you guys what I'm actually clicking on. But after you get a little practice with it, check out the shortcuts.
That's the part that's always lost me when trying to learn a new digital tool. It's when someone teaches while using shortcuts.
You're like, what the heck is happening?
But it does make you realize how fast it can go once you start to remember those shortcuts.
Yeah, exactly. All right, other one. You want to guess what it is? This is a big announcement.
Spring deal.
Spring deal. Our spring deal is here. Let's just show you guys what's going on here. Save over $575 in extra accessories, training classes, and system discounts with Origin from now until March 26th. And there's a really cool one in here that I don't think we've ever done before. We're doing the system discount. We're doing free accessories, double-sided tape and a pry bar, project plans.
And
my favorite, 2 free training classes with those 2 guys. But here's the new one: free trace and trace case included with purchase of the spring deal with Origin. Yeah, so check that out. We've got a lot of shows on trace and how to use it, so check those out for more on how to add this in your shop.
Yeah.
We just traced an oak leaf and inlaid it into a cabinet front. That one was pretty cool.
You always got the classic turning your signature into an engravable file.
That
So you
one's
can
really
truly
cool.
sign your work.
Yeah, so I can sign Jake's work for him now.
Exactly.
I've got his signature down, locked in.
I think so does everybody at this watch sessions at this point.
Check it out at shapertools.com/spring deal. And that's from now until March 26th. All right. Okay, what else is going on?
Oh, we got a little something you want to tease.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a fun one.
Really exciting.
This show is all about the Tambour track, how to design it, how to cut it with Origin. You might be wondering, like, hey guys, how did you make this Tambour panel? How do you go about just even coming up with an idea for this stuff? Well, the reason that we're not talking about that today is because we've got an expert on the line. We are in the process of filming a masterclass with Phil Morley on Tambour doors.
Yeah.
And this guy, he's the best. If you had the chance to come to Shaper HQ and take a masterclass live with him, then you know. He's a current fellow at the Center for Furniture Craftsmanship in Maine. Incredible woodworker. Check him out. While you're waiting on that, because it's not out yet, check out the rest of our woodworking masterclasses at shapertools.com/masterclass. We've got Daryl Peart on green and green furniture making, Matt Kenny on designing boxes. We've got marquetry and inlay. We've got different finishes and textures that you can apply to your cabinets. We've got guitar making. We've got Caleb James on spoke shaving and card scraping and mid-century chair design. Aspen Golan on hand tool woodworking. This one's relatively new, as is this one on furniture design with Audi and Ivy. These are just incredible. And these are different from our masterclass live events, which we talk about sometimes on sessions. Anybody can watch these at any time.
Yep.
And I think it's over 10 hours of video.
Oh, at least.
Right now.
And they're not necessarily all about Origin. It's about craft as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes where Origin fits in, and that's sometimes where you need a spoke shave.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to learn there.
Go check it out.
Yeah.
Shapertools.com/masterclass. And by signing up there, you're going to be the first to know when this Phil Morley masterclass is dropped also. So very important. Okay, next one. Really excited for this. Zach, who runs the cabinet making shop at Madison Area Technical College, MATC, sent us a shop tour. And if you thought that we've played some big shops in the past, this one blew me away. So thanks, guys, at MATC for sending this over. I think this is a great time to say, like, if you want to learn cabinet making, check out Madison Area Technical College because they've got it going on. Let's play the tape.
Sweet.
Hi, my name is Zach Deward. I am one of the instructors for the Cabinet Making and Millwork program at Madison Area Technical College in Madison, Wisconsin, and this is our shop. So here we have our edge bander. We call this room primarily our 32 millimeter cabinet room, where we're making European furniture. We have everything that you need to do any sort of 32 millimeter cabinet system. So a lot of RTA machines. We have a case clamp here. We have some CNC dovetailing machines, bandsaws, pretty much anything you can think of, we got it here. We have our dedicated glue room inside of here. We got a lot of panel clamps, tons of Bessies, all the clamps that you can think of. We got them here so that our students can glue up all their projects. Take you out here into our main lab space. Here's our main lab space. We got 4 saw stop table saws. We have our joiners, planers, a wide belt sander, dual head wide belt sander. We have a panel saw, 4 or 5 shapers, So I'll take you around and show you all around these areas. Here's our main workbench areas. This area is where our students primarily are getting their work done, where they're constructing everything, doing their joinery, and working with their hand tools. Here you can see this is our shaper setup. It's just on an adjustable cart at the moment, but our plan is to build a full shaper cabinet next to our CNC for our CNC module. We just got this brand new panel saw. It's equipped with the full preventative contact system so that it's safe for our students. So if you're running it just like SawStop, if a hand or anything comes in contact with the blade or near the blade, the saw blade will pop down, preventing any accidents from occurring. So this is state-of-the-art machinery that is brand new for our shop. Here's our CNC. Our CNC can hold a 4x10 panel. With that, it's equipped with pretty much everything you need. It is a 3-axis CNC. And this is, it's pretty old, it's about 20 years old, so we're looking to get a new one. But this is what we use to train our students on how to use the CNC. But now we're going to be integrating shaper along with that. Back here, we call this room our rough mill. So as you can see, we store all of our lumber here. All the lumber for the students is taken from a rough state, and then we teach them how to fully mill it down, S4S it, and work from that. So we have our straight line rip over here. We have a full 5-head molder where we will actually teach students also how to make certain moldings, crown moldings, any shoe base, anything that they would want. We can grind custom knives in our knife grinding room to the other side. So we'll teach how to grind those knives. And then we have all of our panel and sheet stock. So this is our shop. The other rooms that we got are a finishing room, and that's about it.
Whoa.
Pretty cool.
That's incredible.
It's a serious school, man.
Yeah. Yeah. You made it when your panel saw has underglow.
I like that they didn't even mention the time saver.
I know.
It's just right there. It's just hanging
time
out.
saver. And they have a whole finishing room, which I imagine is incredible.
And a
too.
glue up room. Room for everything.
Oh, I'm jealous.
Someday we'll move out of San Francisco to the Midwest where we have space. What do you think?
Super cool.
I spent 2 of the best years of my life in Sun Prairie, Wisconsin.
Well, there you go.
Russ fact.
Yeah.
Check it out. Madison Area Technical College. Thank you again.
Yeah, thank you, Zach.
I'll be reaching out to hook you up with a $50 Shaper gift card for sending in that video. And if you would like to send in your shop tour, send that to sessions@shapertools.com. If we play it on the show, send you a $50 gift card. Buy a nice router bit.
Yeah.
Buy a Shaper shirt. Yeah. Speaking of Shaper shirts, we got a project submission that I want to show you. And Richard, we're going to send you a Shaper shirt for this one because it's really cool. He saw that we were doing Tambour on the show today. So check out this beautiful cabinet. This is pretty similar, actually, to what we're working on today. It's a wall-hanging cabinet. This one's got one door. You can see it's got that same back panel thing going on. This door just wraps around the side. And this turned wooden apple is cool as heck.
What I love, too, is he kind of hid the turn of the tambour, so you really don't see through the slats at all.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, and we rounded over the edges of our tambour strips, but these are 90-degree square, so they come together nice and tight. Yeah, pretty cool.
That's beautiful.
So, thank you. Love seeing projects, especially if they're related to the shows that we're doing. Again, those can go to sessions@shapertools.com.
Right on.
All right, Jake. We cut the first panel.
We did.
We designed everything. And now I think we can take it step by step and cut that second panel.
Great. Okay. I've swapped out my panel. Got a fresh one here. I went ahead and put the engraving bit backwards into my spindle so that I can use it as a probe. And let's go ahead and start with a fresh scan. Now for this to register it onto our board, I'm going to go ahead and use a rectangle grid, a probe rectangle right up here under the Create tab. Drop down my bit. And just with a series of 5 probe points, it will tell me exactly where the center of my board is.
And there are 2 ways to do this, right? You could do the standard grid with origin and work off the corner. But since I designed this in Studio with that custom anchor point right at the center of the panel, I think this is so much easier. Just find that center and drop it right on top.
Yeah. And our material is perfectly square.
Mm-hmm.
So I can trust that.
I hope so.
I guess we shouldn't assume anything here. All right. Hop into import. Right there at the top of the list.
Yeah, now here's one tricky thing. We want to make sure that that exit is accessible. Right now it's up against that face of workstation, so we do want to go ahead and rotate that 180 degrees. I also could have done this in Studio if I was thinking ahead, but it's important to be able to test that fit.
Sweet. I'm just going to go for it.
Okay.
Got quite a bit of cutting. I know these mortises probably need a little bit of a negative offset.
Yeah, let's walk through the settings for each of these. So we've got these mortises. They're inside cuts. If we look at the depth, we've got our encoded depth in there. We want to cut this to 0.22 inches. They are already set as inside cuts. For that offset, for the first panel, I used a -3 thousandths offset on that, just a little bit of a glue gap. And I think you could go ahead and cut straight to that -3 thou.
It's a pretty shallow cut.
It's a shallow cut, and we've got 6 of them.
Great.
Bit diameter's all set. Need to Z-touch after we swap back out. And I'd say we could go ahead and cut those 6 mortises. Maybe cut 3 test fit and cut the other 3 if it works the way that we expected. Then we can revisit some more cut settings for the rest of this part.
And today we're just using the standard 1/4 inch router bit that comes with Origin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we get pretty crazy with the router bits on this show, but this one's a workhorse. It's all you need for this project,
really
especially.
Is.
Always Z-touch. This is Origin automatically sensing where your material starts so that it knows how deep to cut. And Jake's going to go ahead and cut 3 of these, then we'll do a test fit. Normally, we recommend doing a roughing and a finishing pass, but for these, we've got a lot of them to cut. These are going to be completely hidden because they're going to be beneath a panel, so if your cut quality is a little rough, if you're shaking around, then it's going to be okay. We can always go back and clean it up a little bit more later if we need to, but it's a light cut, it's a straight line. Jake's got a lot of practice with the tool, so we're just going to do this in one shot and see how it goes. I did want to, yeah, perfect. Okay, great. I needed to clean up the fuzz on mine, but it looks like that one went straight in.
I think that's a nice friction fit.
Mm-hmm.
Nice alignment, too. Mm-hmm. Excellent.
Cool.
Rinse and repeat.
Next side, same thing. Once you've got that offset dialed, then you can just rinse and repeat all day. Again, we've got this template designed in Studio, and Origin's calculating all these toolpaths for you just based on those couple of cut settings that we input at the beginning. And all Jake needs to do here is just follow that dotted line. Origin's going to float around to keep the spindle centered exactly on that line. And you're going to come out with a perfect mortise every time.
Okay. Next we have the mortise for the back panel, which again is a 1/4 inch.
It's another tight 1/4 inch cut because I made that panel exactly a 1/4 inch thick. I think if you wanted to cut that with a -3 thou offset, it should fit. And then I'm going to need to chisel the corners.
Okay.
Also.
All right, here we go.
There's that plunge right to depth. And this cut's going to be fun. It's going to be one pass at a full slot all the way across. And then because we've got that -3 thou offset, that's taking an extra 3/1000ths of an inch off of either side of this 1/4 inch slot. So Jake's going to come back around the other side and just shave off 6/1000ths of an inch off of that. And it's going to make this slot a little bit wider to fit our 1/4 inch back panel. We'll do a test fit on this, but I'm pretty confident that it'll fit because I did one of these already for that first panel. And you can see that dot floating away from the crosshairs. That's Origin keeping that spindle right on track as Jake moves around this cut. All right, and here's that panel. As long as we test the thickness on this, I'll be happy. Feels pretty good?
Perfect.
Great.
All right, time for the track.
Time for the track. You remember our settings for this one?
We need, I'm going to do one pass at -1/1000ths. And that is just so that it lets me all the way in.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it is truly a 1/4 inch, it's a little too tight for us to fit our bit in there. So that's my roughing pass. And then I'll come back in and take a 0.01 off of it.
You'll do a finishing pass on this.
Yeah.
All right, great. And these are going to be a 1/4 inch deep.
Yep.
Perfect. So because this is a complex shape, that's going to be 4 passes total. One going all the way around the track, one to get the tails of that inlet and outlet at that -0.001 inch offset. That's just a little bit of extra room to allow this 1/4 inch bit in that 1/4 inch slot. And then we'll follow that up with a pair of finishing passes on both sides of this track at -0.01 inches. And then, last but not least, we need to come into all 4 of these corners and hit those with that -0.05 inch offset. And that's going to come and clean up the inside of the corners in a way that allows the tambour door itself to bend around that. When you're coming in and out of material like this, you want to make sure that you're moving smoothly. Very nice. All right, so we're coming back to that -0.01 inch offset, and you can see that preview scooching just a little bit beyond the edge of the template. So Jake's coming in now. He's going to hit the exit on this and follow that all the way around. The blue is showing you what you've cut, so as long as you move beyond your stock on this, you're going to be totally clear. Come back in around that corner And for this pass, it's going to be important that we go all the way around both sides of the track on this one. 0.01 inch on each side is going to total a 0.5 millimeter of clearance between this track and the tongue of the tambour door. So if you're looking for a place to start, go ahead and measure the tongue on that door and give it a little extra. 0.5 millimeter total. That's going to be 1/4 millimeter per side, or 0.01 inch. These tambour doors have a lot of friction in them, so opening this up more than your standard mortise and tenon is going to be pretty important. There we are, all the way around that inlet and outlet, and now we need to do the inside side of this complex track path here. Things to make this glide better. I always love using paste wax for these. Just finishing itself is going to help a lot. And I definitely recommend sanding and finishing these tambour doors before you glue the fabric panel on the back. That's going to save you some heartache with glue seeping in. The finish will help you prevent pieces from sticking together that don't want to be stuck together. And sanding those in advance is going to help you get inside all the little nooks and crannies that arise when you glue that fabric panel to the back as well. Because it's a lot easier to sand these when they're individual staves than it is to sand them when they are glued into a panel. So here we are cleaning up that minus 0.05 inches on each corner. Again, you can see origin just taking a little bit off. And on the screen, again, you can see that gray preview. And if you want to practice this before you move into something nice like walnut, just practice with a sheet of MDF or a sheet of plywood. It all works the same. I did a piece of plywood before this show to make sure that everything worked as expected. We're big fans of practice cuts here at Shaper HQ. Definitely fair to be intimidated by this stuff if you're doing it for the first time, but that's no excuse not to practice.
Right. Do a quick test fit before we pop this off. Happy there. Yeah.
I'm happy with that. Should be exactly the same as the last one, yeah.
Should be. Always got to make sure.
Okay.
Cool.
Looks good to me.
A little more defuzz.
It's always a little nerve-wracking peeling this up, knowing that it's a little harder to go back, but really at the end of the day, if you need to go back to this, we could just re-grid it and everything's going to line up exactly the same, you know?
Exactly.
But comparing this panel to the other panel, they look exactly the same to me. We've got our inlet and outlet. We've got the corners cleared on each of these 4 tambour track corners. We've got our mortises that fit, and we've got a slot for a back panel. I think the only thing left is to chisel the corners out on that back panel groove.
You want to do the honors?
Sure. Love to.
I'm going to lift the table.
Good excuse to use our favorite thin scraper. Nice.
There you go.
Okay. Now I can't talk and chisel at the same time.
Can't?
I can't, unfortunately, no.
Another alternative to chiseling the corners of this would be to take a 1/8 inch radius roundover bit and just knock down the corners of your panel. And then it will match with the 1/8 inch radius that a 1/4 inch bit leaves behind. So it all depends on what you feel like doing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. This is the level of engagement that I can have while I'm trying to chisel
Focusing
this.
is a chiseled act. I totally get
Yeah.
it.
Well, unfortunately, somebody
Somebody.
shared shop must have dropped our 1/4-inch chisel, which would have been perfect for this.
Oh,
The edge is nasty. So I'm working with the 1/8 inch here.
Feels like somebody used it as a scraper.
Don't they know we have nice thin scrapers available on shapertools.com?
Yeah.
What else is there to know about Tambour?
Well, I really like the little radius that you gave everything, like a 16th inch radius on all the staves.
Mm-hmm. That's a nice amount. I thought that more was going to be hard to track. Hard to stay straight with. Hard to keep the bearing against the part, but the 16th inch is just enough to
just feels like a hand-friendly edge.
Yeah, it gives it a little bit of a pop.
Yeah,
when you're looking at it also.
Two schools of thought. If you're trying to make this look like one solid panel, got to keep it as crisp and consistent or continuous as possible. But they are different staves. Why not highlight?
Mm-hmm. Especially when they're vertical. When they're when you do the veneer, the horizontal veneer, which I think Phil might talk about in this masterclass. I really like the continuous look of that. But when the staves are vertical, that's especially when I like to differentiate them a little.
Yeah. Could be because we've been in this world for a while now, but I feel like Tambour is making a comeback in furniture.
Oh,
It
yeah.
was very popular way back in the day for roll top desks. Took a little bit of a hiatus, and I'm starting to see it more in fine cabinetry, fine boxes and stuff.
There we go. What do you think? You cut, I assemble?
That's the way it goes.
That's the way it goes. All right, so let's get this going. Got my Tambour here. Let's see. Can we see this okay? There we go. Gonna put this in the old track. Just give it a little slide around the corner. Got not one, but two of these. Oh yeah, there we go. I like that. Now we've got some side panels. And here's something that we didn't talk about that I think is important. You do want to make sure that your side panels end up just a little bit taller than the Tambour staves. And I don't know if you guys can see this at all, but I've got just like, I don't know, a 1/4 of a millimeter on that. Yeah. Just a little bit. Yeah, that's pretty good. Nice and flat there. Okay, now here's the trick, is getting this all to assemble at the same time. I might even take this Tambour out and just use the guides that we cut.
That might be the way.
All right, what's going on here? Yeah, I think I'm gonna do that.
Yeah,
this is like,
that's why it's got the.
This is like 60 things to line up at once. Not, kind of is, kind of not. 5 parts. Is it 60 parts or is it 5 parts?
It's at least 6, 7 things that you're lining up at once.
All right, that side's on. That side's on. I think that's it. Yep.
Beautiful.
Okay, there we go. Now, these are going in the back. And the Tambour side is going on the outside here. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, there we go. Very nice. It's going right around the corner there. Push that around. Let's do this one. There we go.
That is just too cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I really wish I had time to put little pulls on this. I'll do that tomorrow.
With the old blue tape pull.
Yeah, the old blue tape pull.
There you go.
There you go, everybody.
What goes in there?
I think a teacup and a little matcha whisk
Perfect.
in here. Yeah, little tea cabinet. Mm-hmm.
Nice. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's always a pleasure, and we will see you in 2 weeks' time.
Catch you next time.